Hey everybody, it's Chad Burt with OutsideAgents.com. I'm here with Angela Hughes today, and I'm super excited. Why? Because we're talking about persuasion, and it's an art I've been trying to learn over time. And I am one that tends to talk a lot, not listen enough. I don't do my client qualification well and all that, but man, can I craft a story people will buy. And now we have Angela Hughes here to explain how that actually works. So with that having been said, Angela, we're going to start about 19 seconds early. So speak slow for those who are arriving right on time.
Okay, let me go ahead and share this here really quick with myself. Okay.
And folks, just real quick, I'm sorry, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please make sure that you're muted. If you want to ask a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. We have a small group today. Preferably, though, we have a chat box. If you want to type your questions on there, I can kind of aggregate and correlate and feed questions to Angela. But of course, as always, this is about cool people in dirty boots. So we're here to talk and conversate and dig into things. So don't be shy, but please mute yourself so that we don't hear potato chips and all that stuff in the back.
Yeah, I'm loving this today because I'm recognizing some faces that were on here from last time. So this is great. So I think with a small crowd, we can make this really conversational today and just open it up a little bit more. So I love that so much. Okay, so when Chad said, let's do the art of persuasion, I was like, oh, boring. But then I was like, let's dig into it because it's not boring. Actually, when I started putting it all together today, I mean, I think initially you're thinking, like the Greeks, pathos, logic, everything.
Yeah.
We're talking about that. And then it takes you back to college.
The macabre nod and all those shady used car salesman things. Yeah, that's not.
And I was like, I feel like I had to read The Art of Persuasion when I was young or something. And but the thing is that I want to talk to you guys about today, there are so many great little nuggets in this today about how to just be a better salesperson. And what I want to tell you is you can know vendors all day long, but if you don't really know how to sell, and really selling is persuading somebody to do something. So this lecture is good to use on your significant other. I actually, when I went through it today and I kind of organized it all, and this was at 3:30 in the morning because I just came from France, so I was a little jet lagged. When I started doing this, I was like, I don't use this tip on my husband. Oh, wait, I could use this on my son. So these are all tips that are human tips. That's what I love about it. So let's kind of dive into it today and really just get going. So I wasn't joking when I said I was going to pull out my Greek today. So let's look at these 3 different areas of how persuasion really operates from the ground up. And then we're going to get into the strategy behind it, because that's what I really pride myself in, strategy. So, okay, the first one, ethos. So this is when you create this appeal and you're kind of defined as the authority. And that's what we want you to get to is this. And we've been teaching authority through all of these different sessions that you guys have showed up to the last couple months with me. And we're going to be continuing to build on that all next year as well. You're stuck with me for another year of training. So, which I think is going to be really great because now we can start building on common denominators, and actually it'll almost be like going to school. So, okay. So what we want to do is help you build that authority so people see you as a figure, as a thought leader in the industry. And if you just got involved 6 weeks ago and you're like, I don't really feel like I'm a thought leader, I don't even know what I'm doing, that's okay. You're the perfect candidate for this course today, because we want you to grow and become a thought leader. And that's going to be using your character and this credibility to actually persuade people. And so you do have to have some level of expertise. And I always love the term fake it till you make it, because I think the whole world's faking it till they make it in all areas. And then one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I really do know that. And so, you're going to help sway public opinion and audiences to listen to you. And the key is you don't have to really be an expert in everything. I see advisors say, I'm not going to sell Fiji until I've been there, or I'm only going to sell the countries I know. You don't need to do that. You can sell a lot of areas confidently and not feel like you have to travel to every single one of them. And Chad, do you agree with that or not?
Oh, real quick. Yes, wholeheartedly. Please, guys, understand that we built Outside Agents. on the what I call the Wizard of Oz concept. Okay, don't look at the man behind the curtain. Folks, I would literally sit there back in the day. I'm from travel. I never sold travel back in the time. I have to tell this story. I'm sorry, but I would sit there. I was talking to somebody. They called in. I think it was the third or fourth person that I talked to when Steve and I were actually creating Outside Agents. So I was making it up. And they asked, well, how many people are in a group? And so I leaned back and I said, so you're asking how many people are in a group? Steve sat 8 feet from me and he went like this. And so I said, well, when I do groups, I generally have 8 captains or more. I didn't have to be an expert. I had to be sitting next to somebody. I had to have some degree of expertise. In this case, the ability to know when to take a pause. You know, you don't have to be a master of everything to sell anything. You just have to have some confidence, some authority. I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, I love that. Keeping that confidence and authority. So the other thing is on this, let's go to the next one here. Can't seem to like, is pathos. Okay. So this is appealing to people's emotions and using your passion to persuade. So now, and I feel like travel really falls under the pathos. Like I really sell a lot on passion. Okay. And you buy things on passion. You vote for candidates on passion during elections. You, with anger, fear, confidence, excitement, those messages create something in us to do something. You know, people got passionate about being vaccinated or not vaccinated, by being a Trump fan or not a Trump fan, or by traveling or not, or travel shaming during the pandemic. And so this pathos is just a really big area to look at. So on one end, we want to become authoritative. On another end, we want to use our emotions and our passions to help drive your client or your followers or the onlookers to act and then convert. Okay. And then also it's really interesting. I thought this was good. The empathy and sympathy both come from the word pathos. Okay. And I think it's really important to like develop empathy in your life, just not only to be, you know, sympathies. A lot of people are sympathetic. Empathy is a different ballgame. That means that you can agree with somebody or disagree with somebody, but you feel a common denominator with them regardless. So see how these could be like marriage tips and significant other tips as well. So using your emotions and your passions, but also finding common denominators with people. Okay. And then let's go to logos really quick, the logic behind everything. And this is probably the hardest one for me because my brain, you know, our brains are right brain or left brain, creative or not so creative. I'm always in the creative box. I was the one that couldn't sit through 20 years of college, which I did. But now looking back, I don't even know if I would have made that choice again because I'm just not, I'm a creative out of the box thinker. It was really difficult for me to just be like, so just on a syllabus all the time. And statistics and research. I mean, I'm an academic, I'm a college professor, and I'm really key on data and everything. Data is important because it helps show why a decision is correct or not incorrect, but there's so many flaws that go along with that. And in travel, we use a lot of data. I was just talking to Chad about data right before we got on the phone with the most recent variant and how that data is predicting how the future might be for Q1. So that's appealing to the logical side of things. There's a lot of logical bias.
We were talking about data and how people would feel about it. That was the actual conversation. So the data led to the feelings, and that's what we had to address.
Right. And so would people actually respond to the data based on the way their emotions, you know, felt? Exactly. So, okay, so let's move on just a little bit. So that's kind of our background of this. So we've got logic, we've got authority, we've got passion. And I want you to think of all those different modes when we go into deciding how you're going to do things as a salesperson. Okay, because that's the end game of this. How is this going to impact you? Okay, so it really, again, I feel like I'm a broken record, everybody. You got to know who your avatar is. Okay, your ideal client avatar. If you've been on a training session with me before, I probably have this in every presentation because until you define who your customer avatar is, it's really hard to become a persuader of anything. Okay, I want you to go out. You can find this. I just pulled this right off of Google. There's a million different examples of it. And I want you to do your own client avatar because you need to know who you're marketing to. bottom line. Okay. The client avatar helps you because now you no longer become something to everyone. And like I've been preaching at this outside agent church that I'm in right now, is that people who specialize make 3 times as much as those who try to learn it all. And the common mistake I hear from advisors is they're like, I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough confidence. I haven't been there. You have an education. I don't. I came over from nursing. You can make every excuse in the book. That doesn't faze me, because I know people who jumped in 6 months ago who are killing it because they're doing the right things. They know the type of market. I've got one advisor at my agency. She came to me and she runs a Instagram called the Lex List. Her name's Alexis. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm always just giving away so many travel ideas that I thought maybe I should just get in travel. And she has a killer strategy that she knows that she's only going to market to, people that are going to be in that premium and luxury space. And so everything she shoots out there is just perfect for that. And she mostly works. Now, Chad, are you guys like travel leaders or virtuoso or what?
Yes.
Travel leaders. Okay. So let me speak the travel leaders language, because we are too. The Select Hotel Marketing Program. She focuses on the select hotels and the villas in there. She doesn't, and limited all inclusives, but she tries to just sell the select properties, and she just kills it in that area. So she's not trying to sell the whole gamut, but she's trying to sell Jumbie Bay, or she's trying to sell, so she's focusing in on just certain products. And so people now, after 1 year, I'm like, she's just killing it. And I look at her compared to some of my other advisors who are on just this Ferris wheel of trying to learn every brand and trying to figure out what they want to do. And they're going on all these different fam trips and, 700 resorts in Mexico. She's just concentrated on what she likes, and that's the select properties, and then finding the right people to do that. And it fits in perfectly. Her husband's in investment banking, actually graduated from Harvard. And so their network, it ties in right to who the types of people that she's going with who want exclusive vacations. Okay, Social Sandra, here's another demo, just what that ideal client avatar looks like. Again, so you can persuade the right person. This person might only have an income of 42,000. She's a very just normal American, studied chemistry and politics, trying to get a PhD. Okay, but you got to know that client avatar is so just crucial. So if you haven't done that, and in your mind, if you're thinking like, I know what it is, I want to sell to all rich people over 55. That's what people say. That's not right. Okay. Just going, yeah, I just want to sell to like people who have money. Okay. How are you going to find them? Where do they hang out? What's their goals? What are some of their challenges? What's their bio look like? I just want to know everything. And what kind of brands do they operate on? Like here, she's got Zara and Starbucks and everything. You want to appeal, like if you're selling in the premium and luxury space, like what do they like? The newest iPhone 13, they like Louis Vuitton. Maybe they like BMW. So you're going to be looking at certain brands to narrow in on as well, because you can learn a lot about how people sell to people, what their psychology is for people that sell to Louis Vuitton buyers. I read a lot of other luxury type brands to figure out how people are marketing to them, because it translates over into premium and luxury selling in my space in travel. So
Angela, are you using some kind of inferential analysis to kind of find a common denominator between the avatar and who you are as a salesperson?
Yeah, I think your avatar is going to be really, this is just my personal opinion. It'd be interesting to look at the academic data on that, but I think our avatar often mirrors our own life. Because it's really hard to be like, I'm going to only sell to somebody that makes 300,000 plus, and you're making 40,000 and maybe working, an 8 to 5 hourly job right now, and you're trying to break into travel. It's going to be really hard to like mix with that avatar if that's not slightly in your world a little bit. Because, and let's go back to when I'm a mom. I was going to say when I was a mom, like it ended. When I was a younger mom. I couldn't really sell to the avatar that I sell to now, because I wasn't surrounded by that. I was with soccer moms. I was at baseball games. I was with, community things. I was doing PTA or whatever. And so I was selling a lot more in the all-inclusive and We're selling the Royal Caribbeans and the NCL because that's what families my age could afford. And those were people that I was socializing with. And guess what? Those people grow up and then they can spend a little bit more. And now we're all at a different stage. Botox helps. So we're older now. And those people are spending more now because your clients can evolve as well. I don't want you to feel like all of a sudden you've got to find 59 people who make $500,000 to do well in this job. You can really thrive selling mass market products, and you can be the best at Moon Palace. You can be the best at NCL. And some of those people, I mean, I know somebody with Nexion who's in the video world as well. He does a series of YouTubes. His name's Danny. He's probably the #1 seller at Nexion. They're a host agency, but he's probably one of the #1 sellers in cruises as well. He puts out a series of YouTube videos that he's edited. They're amazing. And I was just traveling with one of his partners. Now they're not partners in the business, but he had so much traffic coming over in all inclusives that he just handed it to this other couple that I was with last week in France. And it was really interesting to just listen. Danny's fairly young, but he was so just versed in the cruise market. He knew it inside and out. And then he started videoing them, and during the pandemic shot them up on YouTube, and now has hundreds of thousands of followers. And, I was like, what a novelty. This isn't somebody who felt like he had to go out and just find people that could only sell on Silver Seas. He does a lot of just every single brand. So, but he knows his client. He knew that he couldn't sell in the all-inclusive space or have time to, because his cruise business was so big, that he handed all of the all-inclusive over, and they have some type of deal to the couple that I was with last week. And I thought that's brilliant. He knew what his limit was, and he knew what his market was. And we all want to be him now. So okay, so let's talk about, so we just talked about the ideal client avatar. So mastering this mode of persuasion now. So we've already moved into this. What are the pain points associated with this audience? There's a lot of pain points at all different avatars. A higher end avatar might, in persuading them, time's always going to be an issue. Can they leave their company? They don't want to be off grid very much, or they want to be completely off grid. It depends what type of business they're running with. But I have some stockbrokers who definitely can't ever be off grid. So there's pain points associated with each audience. More mass market client, the pain point might be financial. They just know what their limit is. Okay. So you need to figure out, in your marketing campaign, what technique is going to be most effective for the industry you're in. And when I say the industry, we're all in the travel industry, but are you in the cruise industry? Are you all in the all-inclusive industry? Are you in the hotel industry? And so I think the sooner you can master what we're talking about here, these basics, then the quicker you're going to master the craft of being able to sell. And we've gotten to a habit of not being able to sell very well because of technology. Like, technology's helped us, but it's also hurt us. Okay, so I want to focus for a minute just on basic problem solving and really dive into this for a minute. Because many times when people come, people post things on Facebook and they're like, I worked 13 hours with them and then they took it to the internet or something. Something went wrong in that process. And if I were to talk to that advisor that posted that, I would say, tell me the scenario. Somewhere along the line in that selling process, the advisor was not able to resolve a concern. Okay. And so somewhere along the line, that person decided to go buy it on the internet because something in that scale or that sell was not resolved. Okay. So I want to go ahead and talk to you about how the best person is the person who asks the most questions in sales. Okay. Kids just walked in. I'm giving they're home from college and they don't know the drill around here. Okay. So the best salesperson is the one who asks the best types of questions. And so do you see how you could beat out somebody who's been selling for 30 years if you just ask the right questions? And really, you're not in competition with anybody and you should welcome competition. But the bottom line is you should just ask the best questions. Because the person,
can you real quick, talk a little bit about the relationship between people who ask more questions and their likability with the client.
Yeah, well, actually, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So
Oh,
can
okay.
we
I'm jumping ahead.
forward? Yeah, yeah. So that's a really great segue right there. So let's talk about asking questions, and then we'll kind of circle back to that. Okay. A big piece is handling the curveballs that people throw at you. Okay. Here's a scenario that happened to me on Tuesday. I actually had a new client call. They were a referral off of somebody who went to Africa last year. They said, our Egypt and Israel trip got canceled. We want to do something next week. And they wanted to really just join this other couple who were leaving today, this other family. And I was like, that's impossible. We're not going to be able to put this together in 2 days. And so the thing is, the first phone call I had with them, I didn't ask enough questions. I was in Europe. I was tired. They were talking a lot. I was listening. I was doing a good job listening. Second phone call the next day, she says, well, I have to tell you, we were already booked with Abercrombie and Ken, and we're still sitting on that. Okay, that changes everything. They weren't upfront about all of the information. So now we've got an Abercrombie and Kent situation to deal with that hasn't been canceled. I'm trying to sell Egypt to them because they want to go to Egypt. I'm like, we can put that together. And nowhere in the conversation does she say we had already booked with Abercrombie. It took 3 phone calls to come up with a strategy for them because I wasn't asking the right questions. I was listening, but I wasn't hearing, so to speak. And they weren't forthcoming. Okay. Third conversation, the husband gets on. We end up talking for about 45 minutes. He says, we've got this credit, or we're booked, but it's only for 5 days. The Israel part's canceled. And he says, we've got insurance, blah, blah, blah. And by the time we were done with the conversation, we talked about 4 different destinations they could go to next week. Now we've narrowed it down to 2. I think that we're going to close an $80,000 net safari. So it's probably going to be closer to 95, or if not 100,000 for their family of 8 for them to leave Tuesday. Now, the thing is, that took some listening, and there were lots of objections, like, where can we go right away? How can we do it? We've never worked with you before. And so there's just a lot of talking points that you need to use to get over the curveballs. And like we were just saying, asking critical questions is important. Okay. So what types of questions can you ask? A lot of times we're just right out of the chute. We're like, what's your budget? Okay. And you know what the answer always is for people? Well, I don't know. We don't want to spend a lot, but we want it to be a good trip. How many people have had that phone call? Because people are not going to share what they really feel comfortable spending because they're afraid you're probably going to take them to the maximum. So I'll say to people like, hey, I know you probably have a number in your head. That'll give us a better idea of what suppliers we can work with, but I'm going to give you some higher options, and I'm going to try to come in under that as well. I'll always give a higher option than what their budget is, and then I'll come in below that as well. Because like I always say, people want the model home when they walk into it. Okay, so one of the objections right off the bat is, budget with people. Now you need to be having that whole dialogue of who they are, what type of person they are. And that's why you just can't take a lead cold. You've got to have a conversation on the phone, if not better yet, on Zoom. Okay, where you can see face to face, because you can read a lot of nonverbal cues in someone's face. If I would have been home having that conversation, I probably could have seen that they were uncomfortable when they said they wanted to go to Egypt. I probably could have been like, wait, this doesn't add up, but I didn't have the verbal cues going. And then it took 3 conversations, and in the end, we're going to win on that one, but that could have easily been lost as well. So,
okay. You bring up a great point regarding, facial expressions, micro gestures and all that. I'm the geek. I also have a background in psychology. The pandemic taught me something.
Okay.
Seriously, the pandemic taught me something. Flat faces don't count. But they count more than just a voice on a phone. Zoom is free. You can do a 40-minute thing with, I think, 10 or whatever like that. Folks, the one tool I want to encourage you guys to use, it's not in our thing because it's free, but just go out and grab yourself a Zoom account. You'd be surprised how many people know how to use it nowadays because of the pandemic. And man, will it give you an advantage. Just
Yeah,
want
and
to chime in.
I have to agree with you because never before the pandemic did we do live face calls with, I mean, people
Right.
just were uncomfortable. Now almost everybody, I'll be like, let's have a quick Zoom. And so that's been a gift that COVID's actually given us, is this ability to talk face to face with people now and get off of this emailing. I used to just email people and be like, okay, what do you want to do? How much? Da, 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 and then shoot it back to them. I know that relationship is not as strong as it could be with those clients because I wasn't putting that extra 15 minutes into it. And really all you need is 10 or 15 minutes with people. And then really I pretty much go off, we really don't ever go back to phone. It'll be texting and email from there, and, maybe have a dialogue at the end of the whole process. And so use that time of, use that time in that 15-minute conversation, like I said before, in other presentations that I've done, to not only present your service fee, but to define your worth, to build your authority. Now you're using those early things that the pathos, the ethos, the logic, that's your time to persuade somebody to first use you, as an advisor, and then to pay a fee to use you, which is critical. Now, let me tell you the fee that these guys paid when they first said that they wanted to go to Fiji. So it went from Egypt to now Fiji. I said, well, that'll be 300, because I knew I'd shoot that right over to Journeys. I wouldn't have to do a lot of work. So I was like 300. They were like, we're fine with that. I'd shot it all off. An hour later, they texted me and they said, the kids are all revolting and they're 15 to 27. They said, we'll pay you $1,000 more if you'll change everything to Tanzania. And I said, well, let me give you both quotes. They paid a $1,300 service fee last night to work with me. Okay, $1,300. That's how that conversation went from, I don't know you, we're booked on Abercrombie and Kent, to now, we'll pay you $1,000 more if you can pull this off this week. I'm motivated. I'm motivated now to sell that trip. I've got all the prices today. The minute I get off this training, it's all coming out, Yeah, that's what you want. You want people paying you, is great. So, okay.
Angela, real quick, I want to back up. I know we're working on a deadline, but this Zoom thing and QR codes came from the pandemic. Look, I don't know if you guys can see this, but on the back of my business card, I put a QR code. Right click any web page. Windows will create a QR code for you. It's easy to do. Okay. That links to my Calendly, which links directly to my Zoom. It takes about 10 minutes to set up. So I'm talking to somebody, they ask for a business card, I give it to them. I go, yeah, it's my last one here. And then take a picture of that, and they set a meeting right there on the spot. It goes into their contacts. It's done. It costs me $0.00 per month. Just an idea. Thought I'd toss it.
And I actually use that too. I use an app called Hi Hello.
Yeah.
And so it's got my business card right on it. I carry it on my phone and people just scan the QR code right there too. So that concept's so easy. Now it's stored in there. It's, they're not dropping a card. So
I love it. You know how many business cards I get a day? Yeah, this is cool. So I'll be quiet.
I'm like, you're so smart though, because you make yours and I have to scramble out there to find somebody to do it. So, okay. Well, this is a part of the presentation that I struggle on because I'm a talker. But the key to persuasion is listening. And I tend to want to chit chat a lot. Like, I'm a talker. I like to talk. I like to be active with people. Sometimes I just need to be like, zip it and listen, and let them talk until they can't talk anymore, until they're like, they've got it all out. What I want to say is you're not a therapist in this. Okay. You're not becoming a short order therapist in this, but the listening is so key. And the thing that we always want to do when we're selling is we want to get right to the point and be like, we've got the perfect property. We know exactly what'll work for you. We can send you here. And, I love this. And they're like, well, wait, I never said I wanted to go to Mexico. You're thinking that would be so right. And, come to find out they've got way more to spend, or they've been to Mexico 10 times. And you were just so excited. And that's a problem that happens with me is I just get sheer excitement in me. And all of a sudden you just want to give them everything. Okay. So I want you to talk less and listen more. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about some of the objectives. Now, the problem is when you start to work with people and you're persuading them to buy something, and especially when you're a newer advisor, you may not know what the answers are going to be right away, and you need to do a little more prep. So I would anticipate before you go into the next meeting with somebody, what the objectives might be. And see, the problem is if you're doing this all by email, you may never learn what the objective is. You might get ghosted if you're not charging fees, and they might just, your email could have gone to spam, and you think they're ghosting you, but they maybe never saw it. Okay. So one of the things I want you to do is learn how to anticipate objectives. I can almost read people's minds when I talk to them. That's a weird sixth sense kind of, like I know when talking to people that, okay, they're going to have a problem with the vaccine, or they're going to have a problem crossing borders, or they're not going to be able to navigate this now. I mean, there's a lot of objectives right now to just traveling during this pandemic that you need to be up on. Okay. But there were all the old objectives too. I don't know if we want to spend that much, my wife might be sick, or la, 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 people have objectives, and they have expectations. And so part of you persuading them is helping them fill that expectation, because a person's vacation is only as good as whether or not their expectation was met, whether they're spending 100,000 or 2,000. And that's why people come home upset about things, is because in one mind, they think they're getting oceanfront and it looks amazing, and you sold them ocean view and they've got half of a parking lot and a little bit of an ocean. And when they get there, they're like, whoa, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. And I even had that experience when I was in Rome, or not Rome, where was I? Nice this last weekend. The hotel we were at, I was like, wow, for a luxury property, it was a small luxury hotel. I was in Prague. I had just done an influencer job with a hotel there. So I stayed in a really great small luxury hotel. They paid for it. I did a quick video with them and I was out. Came to this small luxury hotel in Nice, and it just didn't meet my expectations. I was like, the bedding wasn't great. The carpet, I mean, I was just disappointed. Location was fabulous, but I knew what was happening. Like, I was like, here's a luxury brand, but it's just not meeting my expectations. And that's an objective that people often have. Like, so you've got to discover when you're working with people, like, is that product you're lining up with them something you want them to be on because you're making more commission, or you love the sales rep, or you think it was great when you took your family on it? Or is that really going to solve their objectives that they've got? And if you can anticipate what the problem is going to be before it happens, you're going to be 10 steps ahead of people. Okay, so here's some things that you can do. Okay, these are generally the sales objections that people have. And here's some ideas to help you overcome the fears of that conversation before they happen. The budget's always going to be one of the biggest objections to people buying travel. Okay. So going back to what we've talked about in previous lectures, is that you really need to demonstrate what that unique value of the product that you're selling and how it's going to work for them, that ideal client avatar that you've got. Okay. I've seen advisors sell the Ryu when somebody should have been at LeBlanc, because they didn't know their brands, and they didn't know, they were just new. I think I said in the last presentation, I saw an advisor say, number two, they didn't have any authority. They came out, I saw this post like, hey, my client wants the Amalfi Coast, which island in Greece should I sell for that? Okay, yikes, you're talking to a geography professor right now. When I saw that, I screenshotted it, sent it out to all my advisors, and I'm like, this is a deal breaker for me. This one's killing me. You get in situations because you don't know your material. Okay, you don't know your geography. You got to know your geography. Okay, when you know your geography, you're going to be able to spend people's budgets better. Okay, because you're going to be I don't want to be in that small luxury hotel in Nice, which was a great location, but it just really, I was just so disappointed in the property as a whole. And it was just a difficult property. You had to go up 4 floors and over and then up and over. It was on a hill, and it was just kind of a hassle. Okay. And I can't complain. Somebody gave that to me, so I never would complain. But okay. So the authority, okay. Identify the customer's concern and address that specific issue. So this is where you're going to become a pro in selling. Okay. And if you're not well prepped for your calls, then you're not going to be able to do what we're going to talk about next. And that's cross-selling. Okay. If you don't know, you can't just be the bare minimum when you do this. You got to get over the budget constraint. And like I said, I always use a strategy of scarcity. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I always try to sell the model home first, because the model home sells. Nobody likes the trailer park once they've seen the model home in travel. Okay. They'll always stretch once they see what it could have been like. And I promise you it works every time. So, and then I use my authority. I continue to just stress how we can build this, make it unique for them, make it amazing. Okay.
How do you feel about deferral as an authority building tool? So you're talking about knowing your stuff, and sometimes you're going to get caught not knowing your stuff. How do you feel about, I don't know the answer to that, but I do have somebody I can contact, a resource or something.
I actually do that sometimes. I'll be like, I just had that question. I had some client. Okay, you guys probably saw that there was a shooting in Mexico with the cartel last week. They pulled up on jet skis and fired a bunch of shots in the air. I had a family of 6, all adults, staying at LeBlanc. They immediately, I'm at the meeting in France. I look down on my phone. They're like, the shooting. I'm thinking, oh, that shooting was 4 weeks ago. That's the first shooting we had. And he's like, no, that happened today. And I look down. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're shooting up Mexico again. They immediately wanted to move. We wanted to move to Aruba. I didn't have time. I didn't know what the COVID testing was unclear of, like all of the Aruba policies. It just changed with the new variant and everything. And I honestly just said to him, hey, let me ask some of my advisors. I'm in with tons of experts. Let me just ask them, because I don't have the answer on that. And I think people appreciate just a clear yes, instead of acting like you might know, but you don't know, you sound unsure. I sounded unsure. So it was better to differ, like you said, and just say, let me meet with my colleague. She does a lot of Aruba business, and let me see if I can get a clear answer on that. And people are fine with that,
I think they like it. I know a bunch of experts. I hang out with experts.
Yeah.
I'm probably an expert in my own right, maybe just not on that particular question.
Yeah.
So I think there's some benefit there.
Yeah, I think that, people expect, it happens all the time, no matter where you're at. Let me just get back with you on that, and let me just check the facts on that, because I've briefed myself on it and things just changed. So easy now. Everything's so fluid that you can always use hey, everything's changing. Let me double check to make sure things are right. We're going to be doing that for the next 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
So timeliness. This is a big one that you can use right now on sales objections. I'll often use a strategy in persuading someone of supply and demand. Okay. Where we couldn't use that so much, probably, there were seasons of demand in travel prior to COVID, but now really with 2022, we're using that to our benefit. Like, hey, we've got a huge supply and demand issue in 2022. So if you're waiting, don't, because you'll probably have to push it into 2023. That's simple. I just used that 20 minutes ago with somebody. Had a family that my husband knew from where he grew up just call. They had booked on a Disney cruise, and now all the kids have to be vaccinated. They didn't want all the youngest kids to be vaccinated. I don't know why. Whatever the reason, there's 50 of them going, and they had booked directly, and they said, we want to cancel. Can you help us find something? And I immediately said, we need to get on this right away. You need to make a decision if you're going to cancel your Disney cruise. We have a supply and demand issue, blah, blah, blah. And now we're headed to like the Grand Palace. That's what we're moving in. She originally wanted beaches, but I pulled up beaches, and I did a quick screenshot of the availability that week and text that over to her. I said, look at this, it's already sold out. And I go, it's been sold out for months. If you want to do beaches, you probably got to work on that a year out with this party size, So I'll use that whole idea of like time. Okay. And then value, obviously overcoming objectives. It's all about bringing more value adds to people. Okay. Here's what you need to do. I've said this before. I'll use the thing like, let's have a dialogue to find out if I'm the right fit for you, and if you're the right fit for me. Okay. And that's a really powerful statement, because that now becomes like, hey, I'm not 100% sure you fit my consulting business, and I want to make sure you have the right person for your business. And then that becomes a win-win with people all the time. And I'm going to focus on those open-ended questions so buyers get talking. Okay. Don't ask those yes or no. There's only a few times when you should ask a yes or no question. Okay. And you want to do a lot of follow-up questions just to dig deeper. if I would have followed up with that family the first night, I would have saved myself about 2 hours of time. You know, hey, I should have said right there, a closed-ended question. Hey, do you have anything booked right now? And then she would have been like, oh, well, we've got Abercrombie and Kent and da, da, da. You know, I would have saved myself 2 hours of trying to figure out what this person wanted, you know? So get to the root of the problem as quick as you can, and then start addressing those symptoms. And that'll, you know, move into that overcoming objection stage when you do take a quote. Okay, let's talk about cross-selling for a minute. And there's a huge difference between cross-selling and upselling. And this is where I think persuasion really comes into. Okay, so cross-selling is when you're bringing in different products and services that will help add value to the sell. Some that are very obvious are travel insurance, private dinners, private drivers, maybe a dinner on the beach, maybe you're setting up an excursion, all of these different services that are going to bring more to the table. That's different than upselling. Upselling is when you're going from, hey, you have a garden view room and now I want to move you to an oceanfront room. That's upselling. Okay. Upselling, you will make money on that, but you're going to make a lot more money and be a lot more successful selling as a whole if you're cross-selling. Okay. So put that down in your mind. Like every single sell that I do starts with you know, a main product point. And then of course I want to try to upgrade them, but the more power comes in the process of bringing in all of those other components together. Okay. Travel insurance alone, 26, 27% with a lot of these suppliers is, I love travel insurance. It's the easiest thing to sell right now. So, okay. Okay. One of the ways that you can cross-sell is I always feel like wait to cross-sell until you can provide it with a win. My Africa supplier is really great about this. He'll give me one thing and then he'll throw in like, oh, and by the way, I was just able, so now he's got me sold, got my client sold. And then he'll be like, oh, guess what? I went ahead and contacted the Giraffe Manor and they can get you guys there for one night. I know it'll be $1,500 more, but most people want to go to the Giraffe Manor. It's the most Instagrammed hotel in the world. And he'll wait. So he'll take advantage of just dripping things. Okay. And I love that about him. I've learned a lot in selling about that. So maybe he's dripping content to me, a value adds that, or texting something. I think that you guys know that I use text a lot. And so I'll sometimes just text people and go, hey, I know that we're still working on the other piece, but you guys might want to consider doing this. And then it just becomes a little dreamy piece for them, you know. Once they're booked, then I'll start looking, hey, have you guys ever thought about just doing a private museum tour or something? You know, now I'm adding the value onto it. And I'm going to continue to match that service with the client, with the goals of those clients that I'm working on. And so circle back to the beginning of this when I said, if you don't know your ideal client, if you don't know what that client goal is, if you can't understand that person, if you haven't listened to what they want, really hard to cross sell. Because now you don't know what the hooker is going to be. Okay. So the bottom line is you want to enhance that person's experience. Okay. I love what John Grutzner said from Insight Vacation. He said, the best travel advisors are what we call value interpreters. And I just like that statement so much because I don't care what stage of the business you're in, 6 months or 16 years or 26 years. You know, what your job is to interpret how much value you can bring to that vacation, to that experience for that traveler. Okay. So you're not just an agent anymore. We were agents in the 90s. People walked in the door. We booked their air tickets. We booked a hotel. We were order takers back then when we had storefronts. Now I'm a true consultant. I mean, I'm a strategist for people. When you're working with $100,000 from someone, you're strategizing how to use that money. You know, that's changed my entire mindset. I mean, people are spending a lot of money. They're trusting in me. And I feel that same way about someone who's spending $5,000 because that $5,000 for that person feels the same as $100,000 for the other person. So anytime you're working with someone, you've got to treat them not on the dollar amount, but like, I'm bringing value to you. And you know what? They're going to love you for that. Okay. So here's an example of just cross-selling versus upsell. Again, it goes from medium fry to large fry, or you get the burger, shake, and fries, right? Okay. So, okay. Finally, let's talk about empowering the prospect of decision making, because this eventually is going to lead to conversion, which is so, so important. Okay. You always need to make sure that your client just feels comfortable. And here's a great just statement to use with people, remind your client that the choice is truly their choice to make. That's a wording you can use. You can be like, hey, I've presented you with a lot of different options, and we've given you some really great things, but the choice is really your choice. What's going to make you feel the best, what's going to bring the most value to you and your husband, and what's going to meet your expectations. Those are easy statements. And then that empowers them. Now they feel comfortable, and they don't feel like you're just trying to sell them, you're like some Turkish used car guy, no, why clients flee? Because they either feel like they're under pressure. Okay. And they don't feel like you're a good fit for them, or you haven't overcome an objection, or they're like, okay, I just probably can't do this, and I'm too embarrassed to tell them now because they've done so much work. That's usually where it goes, one of those three things. Okay, in the process, don't rush. We oftentimes want to get things sold. We want to get on to the next thing. We want to get on to the next thing because time's money, right? People want time with you. I don't like to give time very much. It's hard to give time. You do want to get moving on. You want to listen, but you don't want to be their therapist. And some people take up a lot of time, and other people, you can't get their time. So don't rush the process. Okay. You want this natural feeling for the prospect. They don't want to feel, again, that pressure. They don't want to feel this urgency. Although sometimes it is urgent. We've got deadlines that have to be matched. And I love deadlines. I love this is when it's due, but at every point of the process, you want to be on the same journey as your buyer's on. And when your buyer doesn't buy, it's because you're at two different spots in the journey. Okay. So you're back on. You have something you want to add to that?
No, I'm actually doing pretty good. I'm listening. Taking notes.
This slide, the listening skills. So one more time, I want to go back to this persuasion thing of listening. And listening is really a nonverbal thing. Okay. When you're listening, your eyes are there. Okay. And that's hard now because we do so many things on computers, but you want to continually just be like, give me more, give me more. And using terms like, this is really helpful information. I now really understand what you want. Or I appreciate you sharing that with me, because I don't know if I would have learned that if we didn't have this conversation, and continue to clarify before the ideas become crucified. I use that a lot because clarity is everything. If you don't understand, if you're not clear, and I like to repeat things at the end, because oftentimes you might circle through 3 destinations. And this happened to me once this year. And I'll tell you what happened. The girl called. She was actually referred by my AIC hotel rep. So one of the reps referred her to me. That was great. She paid a service fee. They wanted 2 rooms over Christmas, of course, on like an $8,000 budget. And I said to her right out of the chute, like, I don't know if we can do this, And I said, I'm confident enough. I think we can find something. And if not, I'll even refund you the service fee, because I wasn't 100% sure at that time. We were pretty busy before Omni, and we didn't have a lot of cancellations or anything, and Christmas Caribbean, and, and then the other kicker was no passports. Lovely. So now we're stuck at St. Thomas or San Juan or somewhere. And so the thing is, at some point we weren't on the same buyer seller journey, because I had said to her, I can do 1 room at a really nice property, but you guys would all have to share. And she says, well, this is $8,000, right? So it was more than they wanted to spend. I said, yes. And it even said on there 1 room. So she goes to pay, and I just had a feeling. I was like, I think that she thinks she's getting 2 rooms. And I said, you're only getting 1 room. She went ballistic on me. I don't know how all day, we, have not matched up on this and da da da. And I said, well, I was clear, and it's clear in the email, and it's, it says it right on the screenshot. And, and she's like, I just can't believe this after all day that, we've just disconnected. And what was really happening is, I think her frustrations of, we can't really afford this trip, was coming out, and you can't find anything that we can afford. I can't, no matter how hard I try, I can't create space on that little a budget, at a really nice destination. I refunded her. I said, hey, I'm sorry. If there was a miscommunication, I felt like I was clear. I was nice about it. I understood that she was mad. So sometimes things just go wrong, and even to the best sellers, and you just have to move on.
So Angela, if I'm understanding, it's really important that you focus and that you repeat back and kind of clarify things. So it's to kind of drill down, and you feel it's really important to make it clear that you understand the other person's point of view, and that we constantly recap and review and reiterate what's being said, so that they understand, we understand, and so that we actually do understand. Did I do that right?
Yeah. It's just rinse and repeat, baby. Rewind and repeat
Make sure
all
you're
day.
clear.
Yeah. And if I would have rewinded, and the problem is, we went to, on that client, we went to an email conversation and not a phone conversation. And if on the phone, I would have been like, yeah, that's 1 room, da da da. She may have missed the message. She may not have looked clearly at the screenshot. I could tell that she was under pressure to find something, but they didn't have the budget, and they were too late in the game, and so, it ended badly. And I probably only have 1 and maybe 2 end bad a year. I mean, obviously when you're doing a lot of business, not everything's going to go 100% right. But I thought to myself, how did that go? So, because I usually don't, sometimes things happen, I usually never have failures, but sometimes you do, Okay.
The unexpected.
Yeah. So your most effective persuasion technique is not talking, but it's listening. Okay. The number 1 thing. So, I think we're going to stop there, because the rest is on storytelling, and I think we want to save that. And let's maybe go to questions. What do you think?
And Angela, I know you would never, ever, ever leave anybody with a cliffhanger just to trick them into coming back to the next one. No, that's brilliant.
That's going to go like 40 minutes,
No, I love it, because, folks, I have to tell you, this was going to start off with storytelling and how it leads to persuasion. We decided to start with persuasion because I believe that experience is the new currency of luxury. That's Silver Sea's new slogan. Telling that story, wetting their whistle, letting them feel it before you start to pitch it is going to be so important. And that's one of the reasons that we want to kind of set this up for you. Because look, at the end of the day, I hate slimy salesman techniques. If you come up to me with a macabre nod in a store, or pull the overhanded handshake, or any of those great tricks, I immediately am going to step back and ask you to go finish your salesmanship 101 class. It just bugs me. But the application of proven, tried and true techniques is important. And in this matter, we had talked a little bit, and I was actually talking with one of our other Pro Series speakers about the importance of that authenticity in your communication. If people believe that you care, it's because you actually do.
Yes.
They'll pick up on that. And that's critical. Absolutely critical.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. I mean, and that goes for any relationship. I mean, sales is really just learning how to relate better with people. You do better with your spouse when they know that you care about them. Your kids respond better when they feel like you care about them. That obviously translates over into sales as well. Your client, when they know that you care, they're gonna, that client who was mad at me, she didn't know I cared. It was so quick, and we were just getting it done fast. And and that was the whole problem. She didn't know I cared. I was listening, but she wasn't reading. You
have to make them feel. You have to make them feel something. I would argue, just real quick, I would argue that if I can make you laugh, cry, or be mad at me, have some kind of emotional reaction, you will remember me.
I think we
It's
had that
important.
conversation last time we were on the phone.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm the king of bad jokes, and I made you laugh, dang it. And now you're going to remember me. Now, what you remember, I got to work on. But I'm saying you will remember because of that emotional connection every
And,
time.
and the thing is with that last client that I worked with, that it went bad, you know, from the beginning, I probably shouldn't have taken her. You know, you do not have to be desperate to take every client. You know, I felt a little bit obligated because it was a referral. But when she told me her budget, I'm experienced enough to know I probably could not deliver that. And it was a waste of my time. And I would have been better off going, hey, you know, we probably can't pull that off right now. You know, you never have to be desperate enough to take work that because you feel like you don't have other clients or you feel like you want to build your business, because in the end it can go bad, and that's worse, you know. And that ended up being bad for me, but it makes for a great training session.
Actually,
Yeah.
Angela, I would argue that it ended up being great for you because look at what you learned and what you were able to share from it. I'm a big believer that
Yeah.
there is no failure. There's varying degrees of success. And man, do I learn when there's less success than I wanted.
Yeah. So
So
now,
having said that, folks, I know we're coming up on a break. I want to kind of recap, if I may, a few things here. So persuasion is not slimy used car salesman stuff. In psychology, we call it compliance. I'm just trying to get you to see my point of view and agree with it because it's a reasonable point of view. It makes sense. I'm not recommending something to you that's silly. Another thing is I think you were boiling down to active, intentional listening is critical. Active, intentional listening is critical. And the way that you demonstrate that is through questions. Those questions will lead the conversation, will give you authority. The nature of your questions will define your credibility. Finding those questions, finding those insights, finding those points which connect you emotionally and therefore cerebrally is the way to create sales. Period. There is no other way. Well, you got a handgun, but that's a different type of compliance. At the end of the day, we're trying to bond a little bit with our clients. That's what you need to do. So I'm going to leave it with that, letting you guys know that apparently Angela may be doing something about storytelling in the near future. And I want to ask you guys personally to make sure you attend that, because what we're doing, I don't know if you can tell my excitement, but we're bridging one half of my career, my entire education is something I'm really passionate about. That's creativity, art, you know, writing and all that kind of stuff. And we're bringing this funnel down to a really important point that we're going to make in January. I want you folks to join me then with Angela. Having said that, folks, thank you once again for joining us. I just really appreciate everybody showing up. I know Angela does too. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great day.
see you guys later.